In today's video, we're going to be diving in to the upcoming pattern, taking a look at Major Hurricane Melissa here that you can see on screen that is expected to bring devastation to Jamaica and major impacts to Cuba, Haiti, Eastern Bahamas, and even Turks and Caicos Islands. We're going to really deep dive into that. But we will be talking about the upcoming pattern for the lower 48 of the United States as well, where we have multiple major Arctic blasts on the way. A really huge one for Halloween, and then a few days later we're actually going to be seeing an even bigger one perhaps as we reach into the first week of November, and that one will even bring the chance for some eastern snowfall in early November, which is just insane to think about. So we're going to dive into all these things. This is like my 5th or 6th time recording this video now. I've had serious issues with my computer today, so bear with me. The audio has been just really jacked up all day. My pen will not work, and it's all because I updated my computer. What do you know? I feel like every time you do that, it messes things up. But I just want to let you guys know why I won't be drawing on the screen. But I'm going to do my best. We can see that this storm went from a tropical storm, and this was as of 8 a.m. Yesterday, up to a Category 1 by 2 p.m., Category 2 by 8 p.m. yesterday, Category 3 by 2 a.m. this morning on the 26th, and then a Category 4 by 8 a.m. here on the 26th. So in a matter of 24 to 36 hours, we've seen this one go from tropical storm status all the way up to Categories 3 and 4. And you can just see this thing is a monster hurricane that is just ripping. Really healthy storm. Unfortunately, you wish you could say it wasn't, but it is. And it is expected to reach that Category 5 status before striking Jamaica. And there's no telling if it'll still be a Category 5 by the time it literally hits, or if it will slightly regress down to a Category 4. In either case, we're already seeing impacts from this storm, and Jamaica has already been seeing impacts from this storm as of yesterday evening. They are going to be seeing 3 to 4 days of impacts from this system, with a good 24 to 36 hours of really heavy major hurricane impacts to the island. This is just the worst case scenario that is unfolding here, and I don't think people realize just how bad this truly is. Obviously, we know it's a major hurricane, but you're almost tempted to think like, oh, well, they're out there in the Caribbean, you know, they're used to major hurricanes. But really, they've only seen Category 3s, first off, so never Category 4 or 5 in recorded history this is. And I'm not looking at the data now, so correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but this is just what I found. And the last time they saw a major hurricane, which again was only a Category 3, and I say only, you know, that's a very major system, but this is a whole nother level. But it was, I believe, in the late 80s. So we are looking at something that has not happened for a long time, almost 40 years. So this is just not something that happens, you know, once every 5 or 10 years. This has never happened in recorded hurricane history, and especially a slow-moving system, right? Because those major hurricanes were likely moving at a typical pace. This is a very unusually slow system, which is just going to drag out the impacts. This is the complete worst-case scenario. I cannot think of a worse scenario hurricane-wise for Jamaica, and that's a really scary thought, but I really can't. On top of that, major impacts. I mean, Category 5 hurricane winds, 30 plus inches of rainfall, maybe breaking records in Jamaica for rainfall, and obviously massive storm surge with this thing. So all impacts are completely the worst possible. Eastern Cuba here is likely to see a Category 3 hurricane strike here. So, I mean, they're going to see a major hurricane themselves in Eastern Cuba. It's highly populated in there. And then we're going to see indirect impacts to Haiti. And then even for some of the southeastern Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands are going to be seeing impacts from this one as well. So really an impactful system, unfortunately hitting a lot of populated areas as a monster storm. I just can't make it up. I couldn't think up a worse scenario. It's just truly bad, and I want to hammer that home. This is just terrible. We're going to move on to the model guidance here and talk about the upcoming pattern for, again, the United States, going over those temperatures as we see multiple major Arctic blasts roll through. Now, as we take a look at some of the upcoming storminess, we also have the 500 millibar geopotential height on here. And that's also going to give a good perspective of really what to expect as far as the overall temperature patterns on top of the storminess. And as we can see, I mean, we already have storminess up there, a lot of snowfall in the northwest actually, and a pretty healthy storm system moving through the deep south as of Sunday today. And into tomorrow, Monday, this becomes a little bit of a nor'easter off the southeast. A lot of the lower pressure out west is now transferred to the Rockies. We're just seeing a pretty stormy look here for the United States for a couple of days. By Tuesday the 28th, we do see this warmer air building for the west and this cooler air just really crashing into the central states. A really nice, healthy frontal boundary there, moving across as well, bringing precipitation. By Wednesday, a couple of interesting things happening. Our more major low is now over about the Smoky Mountains. A lot of rainfall there in the southeastern corner of the nation. We do have some lower pressure also offshore of North Carolina, so this is a secondary low. It's not the strongest one out there, but definitely will be bringing some coastal storm impacts, but it's a very weak coastal system. By the time we reach Thursday here on the 30th, we see this thing gets down to a 993 for the Mid-Atlantic, bringing a lot of much-needed rainfall for the Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, and Northeast there. By the time we're reaching mid to late week this week, really, really good news. And for Friday, watch our hurricane. It moves over the Bahamas, and then it kind of just gets sucked into all of this. Obviously, by this point, it would be more equivalent likely to a tropical storm or maybe Category 1 system, but we're seeing this scenario where it can get pulled in to areas of eastern Canada or perhaps the northeastern corner of the nation as a pretty intense coastal system. Most likely by this point would have lost all of its tropical characteristics. And obviously, from compared to what Jamaica's getting, this would be a much less impactful system, but still bringing more rainfall, more wind, stuff like that to the northeast corner of the nation. And that would actually be happening on Halloween, October 31st. Keep that in mind. 979 up there between Maine and Canada. That would be a very impressive system. Here's that big cool down that moves in for Halloween. We could see it really, really flowing in here to the east. We see a healthy amount of warmth just kind of staying put over the west here. Then again, a couple days later, we see an even more intense cool down really take over. Look at this curvature. It looks like a S on its side, basically, here. That is a very, very healthy ridge and then trough pattern that we're seeing unfold. Lots of showery activity in the east, even some snow showers for like the UP of Michigan there, the Appalachian Mountain Range, the northeast as well. And then we eventually see that cool down move through, and then we actually have another one that's on the way here behind a low between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes, a pretty major low at that, but the warmth is building for the west again, and that cooler air is about to move down into the central and eastern states once again here at the end of the model run. Looking here at the total snowfall, we do see for areas in the northwest, there is still quite a bit, but more impressively than that, we see a lot of the upper Midwest, like the UP of Michigan and Wisconsin, the Smoky Mountains up into some of the other Appalachian Mountains, then even for some of the mountainous areas in the Northeast. We do see snow falling, which with the elevation difference between the Rockies and Cascades and then the Appalachian Eastern Mountains, this is more impressive, honestly, the eastern snowfall that we're seeing here than those western counterparts. And this is actually a less snowfall than they've been seeing out there in the west for a 15-day period. So this is actually a little bit of a downgrade for them. But really, really crazy in the east how much of this snowfall we're seeing for late October, early November. I mean, this is a decent amount. Looking at the temperatures, we see cool down number 2 here is overhead in the east already. Cool down number 2 goes ahead and moves in for, again, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday there in the east. That's going to be during and before Halloween. Then we see this more major one crash in right here, bringing highly, highly below normal temperatures. I mean, look at this look right here. Really, really warm compared to normal out west, and then really, really cool compared to normal in the east immediately afterwards. This is just a really intense cool down that lasts a few days. And believe it or not, on this final frame of the model run, we do have a cool down from the areas of central Canada that is about to move into the central and eastern states. Now, it might not look like that, but we do see that area of kind of like lighter yellows and oranges going on here throughout Alberta, Saskatchewan, areas like that. And it might be slightly above average temperatures for them up there, but their average temperatures are, 20, 25, 30 degrees colder than areas in the eastern United States for this time of year. When you take that into consideration, this is just taking the average temperature for every given location. So if this exact same temperature air mass is going to move down into areas that have much higher average temperatures, as this transfers southward, you would start to see some blues popping up and then eventually, more intense blues and even greens as it reaches the eastern states. And I looked at the GFS model, again, because I've recorded this video 5 or 6 times already, And what we're going to see here is that this GFS model is going to show it perfectly what I'm trying to explain there. So we see cooldown number 1 on this model, cooldown number 2, cooldown number 3, and then watch this. Again, this is the same kind of time frame here. We see those yellows and oranges. We can see a little bit of blues in there, but overall the same idea. And then watch it blast down, how it just becomes blue. It just becomes more and more blue and then eventually green, because it's not getting colder as it moves southward. It's the average temperatures are going up as it reaches to further and further south locations. So I hope that makes sense. And on this model, this is great. We see that one moves through, and we actually get a 5th Arctic blast that is kind of charging up and about to move down by the time we're reaching just after the 10th of November. So this is just a crazy back-to-back kind of cold front and Arctic blast pattern. Constantly, the Arctic up there way to the north is just sending this air straight down into the central and eastern states. Very, very reminiscent of late fall into winter time last year, and kind of along the lines of what we've been predicting. So we're going to be watching all of this closely, but we are definitely turning the page on the warmer than normal pattern and moving into something that is much, much colder than what is typical. With all that being said, again, we're going to get our pen back, and we're going to get better, hopefully 1 or 2 takes on the video, not 5 or 6. And I'm going to be working on that tonight into tomorrow, rest assured. With all that stuff being said, be sure to subscribe. We upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.